Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of OB Talkwire. I am once again your host, Ian O'Brien. Just a preview of this episode, real quick. We had a little bit of different scheduling conflicts with two of our other guests that were supposed to be on. So we got another guest on. I think you all know him pretty well. He has about 70K, almost 70K followers on Twitter. His name is Jim Weber, former writer for NBC Sports, CBS Sports, and ESPN the magazine. I sit down on Riverside.fm once again as we talk about the upcoming college football season, the NIL situations going on in college football, the best college football games of all time, a little tribute to then former Pittsburgh Panther and former Colton Baltimore Raven Tony Siragusa. And we also talk about what NCAA football video games will be like when they come back. Once again, I want to thank Jim Weber for coming on and all the support I've been getting for this podcast. And enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone, over here to OB Talkwire, episode number 5. Can't believe it's already episode number 5. Once again, I want to thank everyone for all the support here on the YouTube channel, family, friends alike. Remember, it's a show where we basically talk about anything from sports, music that's going on. If I got a music guest on. Now, I know I was supposed to have Cole Peterson and Ivan on last week, and there had been some rescheduling. We're going to get actually an update when Cole comes onto the show, because he does, in fact, have something new to definitely ask everyone. But we got someone else on. He's got about how many followers over here? Like 100K followers? Nah, 70K followers on Twitter over here. 70K followers here on Twitter. How many do you got?
I think it's 60-some thousand followers.
60-some thousand?
Yeah.
My, oh my, that's a lot right there. So 60-some thousand, let me see. Yeah, almost 70K, wow. But nonetheless, everyone, it is the man himself, Jim Weber. He worked for NBC Sports, ESPN the magazine, CBS, and of course had his own website, Lost Letterman. Rest in peace, by the way. Jim, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jim, real quick, let's talk about, of course, there was some bad news last week. The passing of former Pitt defensive lineman and former D lineman for the Baltimore Ravens, 2000 champion, Tony Siragusa. Thoughts about it real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, talks about what a character he was. I remember first time I really remember hearing him was on the Hard Knocks season of the Baltimore Ravens, and they always had him mic'd up in training camp, and he was always just cracking jokes. And I remember that's when I really remember finding out who he was. And then people remember him now from his career with Fox. And I'd say the funniest thing I remember from him during his time there was one time he was on the sideline with Mike Pereira talking about like hands to the face penalties. And the two of them were literally just like assaulting each other on the sideline. And Tony Siragusa had Mike Pereira in like a chokehold for a couple seconds while he was demonstrating a penalty. And that was just the stuff that made Tony Siragusa like a household name and someone that everyone has a fond memory of. So, yeah, it's sad that he died so young, but he definitely left a mark on the game.
Yeah, and I think this is my memory of him. And I remember he always messed with everyone at training camp. He was like, when I came to this league, I got $1,000 signing bonus, not 12 million, not what like 2 million, not 400K or something like that. He's like, you see all these guys with their nice cars. Oh, they're gonna don't park them near me. So I'm gonna slam my truck door, and you're gonna have dents all over the side of your door. And he's like, I don't have respect for you unless you make the team. Then maybe I'll have respect for you. Not really, but maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
real quick though.
I feel like the Baltimore Ravens were one of the best Hard Knocks seasons, and I think like he was a really big reason for it. So, Hard Knocks was one of the first sports docuseries, and now there's so many with Last Chance U and Cheer and all these types of shows. And I feel like, I'm not saying Tony Siragusa is the reason we have those, but the Ravens were a great season. He was a big part of that. So it was kind of one of the first glimpses into the potential of the behind-the-scenes show and why everyone loves that format.
Now, do you know when the 30 for 30 comes out for them? Because they're supposed to be one of the 2000s Ravens.
Yeah, I just saw the news a couple weeks ago that they're doing it. They usually give you a heads up about those pretty far in advance. So I'm not exactly sure when that'll come out.
So I
But
know
that'll
that,
definitely be a great watch with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all the great players that were on that team.
well, yeah, Ed Reed, I think, came in years later, but yes, you got a Shannon Sharp on that team. Again, Syracuse, the Goose. Todd Heap was a rookie. I remember that season too when they highlighted him a lot as well.
You
But
raise
your
a good
favorite,
point, but yeah,
yeah,
still a Miami at that time.
Reed came. I think Ed Reed. I think came what 03 was it 02 03 something like that.
Yeah, 203.
Yeah, it came a year, kind of like 2 years after, but it's still around that time where everyone else was basically on that Ravens team. But I remember probably the best quote of Syracuse. I don't know what your favorite is. My favorite is if I wanted to go, if I wanted to go Notre Dame or Penn State, I'd want to go play the fight song. I wanted to go kill people, so that's why I went to Pitt.
Nah, I haven't heard that one. I don't
You
remember
haven't
a
heard that?
particular. I hadn't heard that one, but I would say the most memorable thing was definitely the Mike Pereira back and forth on the sideline. That was a classic moment.
Oh my god! And was that when he was so he was a player, right? He was still
No,
playing. He wasn't the
that
sideline
was
reporter yet, right?
that was when he was an announcer. I think it was 2012. He was like,
Okay,
he
so yeah,
wasn't in the
silent.
booth. He was like an on-field analyst, and Mike Pereira was down there with him,
Yeah,
and they were talking about penalties and what constitutes a defensive lineman penalty.
yeah, and then Fox let him go, and and he had a few other things going on too, from what I saw on his TikTok, living life, and then again, I don't want to get through speculation about like someone's death. People, I've seen so many tweets. People will say like it's it's maybe the vaccine, of course, or it's because he's obese or steroids. I don't. Speculation, thoughts about that. Do you think it's just stop, let them go for peace, piece to piece?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's natural to want to find out, why he died so early, but I definitely don't think it helps at all to speculate why until I'm sure there'll be a report as to, why his death was so premature. But in terms of trying to guess before that, I don't think it does any good.
And of course, he was also, in fact, undrafted in 1990, which is something. You think he missed his senior year at Pitt because of an ACL injury. And nowadays, you'll probably fall to like the second round, but back then, I think it was they just didn't have the technology for anything. So he fell. And weren't there how many rounds were there back then? Like 10 or 12 or something like that? Wasn't there?
I forget
10 or
back in
12?
1990, but the draft has definitely shrunk dramatically over
Yeah,
time.
I'm just gonna say I'll have to look up after this. I think it was around 10 or 12, but you fall from like 12 rounds to undrafted. That's just, and then again, you get do you remember a signing bonus? Do you ever remember what I said?
I mean, I'm guessing it wasn't much, but yeah.
$1,000 signing bonus.
Oh wow.
There's actually a story on that. Yeah, I'm also reading his book. So $1,000 signing bonus. And and what he did with it? He went to the bar with all his boys and he
Yeah,
spent it all on drinks.
yeah, that sounds.
And that's just a Syracuse thing that, yeah, that's just a goose thing that he see outfit. But fortunately for the passing, once again, it's kind of a shame too because tweeted, what was it, maybe a couple of days before his death. I'm like, future guys I would like on this podcast. I think you're one of them. I actually added Syracuse and I added a couple other ones who I were probably going to get over here. But it's just a shame, really, to see all this stuff happen with his death. And once again, prayers, family. Let's hope everything goes well, a better place. So for them, in the future coming up, and just again, gotta look at them too. And it's enough to say, but so a little bit about you now. You lost Letterman. You founded a website. You worked for how much? What other things did you work for? NBC, I think it was, right? Was that
Yeah,
one of them?
NBCSports.com, ESPN the magazine, and there was a TV station by the name of College Sports TV that was before ESPNU, and they sold it to CBS, so it has now become the CBS Sports Network. But back in the mid 2000s, it
Yep.
was the first college sports only TV network, which was a lot of fun.
And I imagine you probably seen a bunch of like personalities from NBC Sports. Who like I guess famous from NBC Sports did you like see every single day when you worked there, or even at CBS or ESPN?
Yeah, so I didn't see a lot of famous people at NBC Sports because I worked for the website. In terms of college sports TV, there's a couple guys. Greg Amsinger is now at the MLB Network. He's on air a lot. Michelle Beadle obviously had a lot of success with ESPN and now has her own podcast with The Athletic. Adam Zucker, who now does a lot of work for CBS Sports for SEC on Saturday broadcast and a lot of work around the college basketball NCAA tournament. So yeah, those are three big names that have gone on to have really notable careers in TV journalism. So it was really cool to work with them back when they were just getting started in broadcast journalism.
You got any interesting stories about any of them from like when you talked with them? They tell you any juicy secrets here and there?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say really juicy secrets. I just remember that Michelle Beadle, you could definitely tell, was headed for big things. She had like a huge personality and just absolutely no fear when it came to voicing her opinion and being on air. So I think everyone knew that she was going to go on to do big things. And the fact that she was so big at ESPN with Sports Nation, she's now doing a really good podcast over at The Athletic. But the fact that she has become such a household name, I'm sure is no surprise to a lot of people that were working with her at the time back at CSTV.
So someone who's definitely worked, I want to say, because I've had a lot of this problem too. You graduate from college, you're in sports, and I work for a small one. We call YSN Live. I don't think you've heard from it. It's more of high schools around this local area in Ohio. We're getting some of them up in Cleveland and all that. But how does someone, I want to say, in a way, if they want to go like a broadcasting or something, what do they have to do in order to, I guess I should say, make it to that level? What are the most important step by steps?
Yeah, well, I think, working in college, either at the student newspaper or the student radio program or student television station is great. I worked at the student newspaper at the University of Michigan, and that was great in terms of learning the skills of journalism and also connecting with people in the industry. There's a lot of great Michigan alums now in sports media that are very high profile. So Adam Schefter is the biggest name over at ESPN. Rich Eisen now with his own radio show is very popular and NFL Network. And then there's a lot of younger people that are younger than me that are having a huge impact on sports journalism. Nicole Auerbach at The Athletic is their lead college football news getter. She's doing a great job. My best friend from my time at the Michigan Daily, Brady McCullough, is now a sports features writer focusing on college sports for the LA Times. So yeah, learning about the craft and making connections in college is huge. So I would recommend anyone that's in college to get involved either in their student newspaper, their radio station, or their TV station. And that's the best place to get started.
Did anyone ever come to you and say, "Oh, you made an error over here while writing," and then some famous person goes, "What is this? This is incorrect." Have you ever made that error before?
No, I mean, I can't remember that like kind of interaction with someone that high profile, but it was definitely great when you would see someone would often the alums come back to the Michigan Daily because they want to just stop in and say hello, and seeing someone that has made it and seeing them talk about their days at the student newspaper while you're doing it makes it all seem very possible. Whereas seeing Adam Schefter on ESPN, it probably seems like, oh, I could never do that one day. But actually seeing them in person and talking about their experiences makes it feel really realistic, which is great.
Yeah, and I tell you what, sports writing's changing. Writing's been changing since the '90s. I mean, what was the first ever? What was it writing? Because I know you had lost Letterman. What did you have to work on when you were writing back in the day? Because it seems like now you could just get someone on a on the website, Microsoft Word, make your own website. What did you have to do? I guess I could say back in the day when it came to like just sports writing, because again, you had limited websites. Stuff like Safari, I think, was just basically brand new along with Internet Explorer. And if you were back in the late 90s with AOL, then you had
Yeah, I mean,
like pick
it was
something.
really hard
Yes.
to, one, access a lot of information or put your work out there if it wasn't through an established outlet. So growing up in Columbus, I read the Columbus Dispatch a lot. You would read a lot of the established publications like Sports Illustrated or ESPN the magazine, or watch TV like Sports Center. Um, it was really hard. I had to get started college sports TV as a researcher, which is basically just fact checking everything that was going on the air. And that was really the only way to get started. Now you can just have a phone, or like you're doing with this, you can start your own podcast and create your own media company. Whereas then, really, the only way to get your foot in the door in sports journalism was to go work for an established company at the lowest rung. So I'd say it's been great for entrepreneurial people. A great example is John Boy Media, who has built a huge presence in baseball in just the last couple of years. And I think he said he was a wedding videographer, and he just loved the Yankees and started posting stuff to YouTube and social media. And now he's got this huge sports media company with a huge following that he built totally from scratch, totally without any experience at traditional media companies. So I think that's been great for people that want to get into sports journalism.
I do think that's really great too, especially again, you're a wedding videographer. And you go from that to doing Yankees writing and then podcasts and the New York Yankees. But one thing I think it's now like you try to do that, like say for example on YouTube, and you put like a clip. It's so important to give credit because one thing, especially with YouTube now, it's like one thing of there's like maybe no credit or something like that. I mean, they won't even like find you. You're just instantly hit with like a copyright. I think now it's ridiculous, kind of.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely the Wild West in
Yeah,
terms of social media. And I've been put in Twitter jail a couple times about copyright
I saw.
violations. I've steered clear of that now. But, I think I was in Twitter jail for, I don't know, 7 or 8 months over an old clip that was like 3 years old when they said it was a
Canceled.
copyright violation. And I had no attempt to take it down or anything. So it's definitely nuts. The amount of copyright violations and when it gets enforced and the amount of time you get to actually correct it. Everyone's just kind of figuring out on the fly right now.
They canceled you, Jim. They canceled you how many times in Twitter jail already for something that happened 3 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. So I'm
That was
hopefully that's my last stint.
how so. How hasn't your account been fully like terminated if you've been suspended all that time? Eh, Again, I
I
should
don't know.
just be saying,
I contacted someone that worked at Twitter. That was actually another Michigan alum, and he was nice enough to help me navigate my way out of Twitter jail. So hopefully that's my
so
last time.
yeah, you had the connections, which means someone from Twitter is going to be watching this podcast. Some random person, they're going to find out that hey, one of our guys let this guy out of jail, and he wasn't supposed to be out of jail yet. Guess what? We're going to his account,
Well, that's why I'm
which
not
is why.
mentioning this.
Yep, and I promise you, I'm not going to put a follow button at all at the bottom of this bio, unless, of course, my good fans want to follow you. I mean, you already have a bunch of fans, though. I mean, unless you want some of the local Youngstown guys who are listening to this, I mean, by all means, say more the merrier.
Yeah.
Um, so another topic, real quick, though. A lot of things have been changing in college landscape, not only just football, school, and sports in general right now. NILs have been the biggest topic, and I've been seeing a lot of this. One of them is, I think it was, I don't know if you heard of this, one of the Miami basketball players, I think he's going to transfer because of an NIL deal that, like, he doesn't have a big contract for, like, an NIL deal. And then Deion Sanders' son, I don't know if you heard that, signed, like, a big-time deal with Gatorade, actually, about, 3 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's definitely been, speaking of the Wild West, I feel like the NIL deals are crazy right now. And there was a story just yesterday that Miami got a quarterback recruit who may or may not have signed an NIL deal worth $9.5 million. So this is definitely a rapidly developing landscape. And with NIL collectives, which are basically boosters just putting money together to hand out to recruits. It's pretty nuts that it's only been, I think it was July 1st last year when NIL deals started, and now just a year into it, it's crazy how big it's already gotten.
Yeah, and I kind of think right now it's good because some kids have trouble, especially if they grew up like in like not so good families. I mean, if you weren't like a Mansell or something like that was already kind of rich. So I mean, it helps for those, but at the same time, then I feel like you get greedy in a way. And it's not. I'm not saying like it's a bad thing if you want like sign with a big sponsorship, but it seems like now if you don't get that sponsorship or the school paying you enough, you're going to be like an NFL player, even though you're only a freshman in college. You're going to be like, I want to go somewhere else and play it. I mean, I want to go somewhere else and make more than before.
Yeah, well, I think everyone agrees that it's great that the college athletes are getting paid because they're making so much money for the schools. Now, some of the unintended consequences are, I think the big story of the last couple of months was the Pitt wide receiver Jordan Addison, who was rumored was basically poached by USC to leave school when he won the Bolitnikoff Award for a bigger NIL deal at USC. And that's where it gets really dangerous territory where I don't know. It's been disputed by Lincoln Riley that this happened, and we'll see what the facts are eventually. But I think the idea of a coach approaching a player on another team who's not even looking to transfer and saying, hey, if you transfer, we'll get you a better NIL deal. That's a really scary place where anyone who has a good year will all of a sudden be, fished out into free agency. That's something I don't think people want college sports to become. And we'll see. The NCAA said that they're going to crack down on that kind of stuff, but I don't know if they really have the enforcement to be able to do that. So hopefully there's not more of that going forward, but it's definitely a little worrisome that you just saw the best player on Pitt's roster hightail when there's rumors that he basically realized I could make more money somewhere else.
Especially since it's in LA compared to Pitt. I mean, you're making way more.
I don't blame him. I think, being in Los Angeles on the beach and making a ton of money sounds pretty good to me, too.
Yeah, look, you're a college kid. You got pina colada right there. They were just drinking compared to Pitt, where what's the closest beach to Pitt? I don't even know, honestly. But
yeah, I mean,
there's definitely not a good one.
Pittsburgh's a great town, but winter in Los Angeles is a little bit better than winter in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't probably better when you had all the COVID stuff going on, but I think now it's settled a bit, so they should be fine. But you know what's funny though? I actually saw Narduzzi, I think a month ago when I was helping out with the YSU Bridge Camp. It's like one of those. I don't know if you heard about it. So it was like a football camp that brought all these colleges in for like all the kids, for like high school kids, see what they could do. And Narduzzi was there, and me and one of the players who was helping with the video stuff. We are walking. Narduzzi's literally walking past us. Saying, how are you doing? I'm like, is that Narduzzi? He's like, yeah, that is Narduzzi. Don't mention anything, though, about NIL to him or anything like that.
Yeah, I know that he already wants Lincoln Riley to be investigated for poaching Jordan Addison. So I don't know if that'll lead to anything, but I would be pretty upset, too, if I lost my best player.
And, hey, he's an Ursuline guy, so, hey, all I got to say is over here. It's my high school. Go Irish. I mean, you got to just support. I think an Irish alum trying to make the better for a star wide receiver, possibly going to make more money somewhere else. I mean, hey, I'd go live in LA. I mean, it's pretty nice as of now. I would say Florida's even nicer. Pittsburgh, I mean, it's downtown Pittsburgh's not bad. You got the Steelers, but besides that, it was really in Pittsburgh.
I don't know.
Not a whole lot besides it's.
My best friend used to live there, and he raved about the scene for young 20-somethings. So I think it's actually a pretty hopping place. But obviously, the lifestyle of LA, the glamour of USC, the prestige of playing for the Trojans is a little bit more appealing than Pitt.
You want to talk about a hopping place? You ever been to downtown East Lansing?
I've only been to East Lansing once.
So we were there. I was there with a lot of guys for the YSU game against Michigan State last year, and I was snuck out by a couple people. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was snuck out, and we kind of went bar hopping a bit. Like I didn't drink, but we went kind of like bar hopping. It was a fun time, and there was also a big melee too in one of the bars. I
But
almost missed
yeah,
my
East
practice yesterday.
Lansing, East Lansing is quite a party town, especially when the Spartans are doing well. I don't know if you remember, but in 2000, when Michigan State basketball won the national championship, they basically set off massive riots in East Lansing, and couch burning, and the whole 9 yards. So it's definitely a wild place when the Spartans are good. So
So you saying it's even more wilder than when Philadelphia won the Super Bowl?
I don't. I know that was kind of like the gold standard with the guy eating the horse manure. I don't know if it's that crazy, but it's definitely a party town.
Yeah, and so on that party town, and of course the NIL deals. So what's the future, do you think, of the NIL? What's going to happen?
Well, I know that the NCAA is going to try and crack down and basically stop people from signing recruits, giving them money to come to their schools. The idea was this will be something that companies can give to players to sponsor them once they're on campus. But they don't want guys being fished off of other schools or being told, if you come to this college while you're a high school recruit, we'll give you this money. Now, I don't know. The genie's kind of out of the bottle at this point, so I don't know if they can stop it. But that's what the NCAA is going to try to do. I guess we'll see going forward. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen at this point. But we'll see whether or not they gain some sort of control, so it's not this wild, wild west, which is what everyone's calling it right now.
It's gonna be a while for that Wild Wild West to kind of whoa Nelly down a bit, as we could say. But hey, the good news about this, your favorite game's coming back. Favorite video game of all time.
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. Next summer, it looks like the EA Sports NCAA football game is coming back. And I know it's funny because so many people that love Madden have been panning EA Sports for basically just making the same video game every year and just putting a new year on it. But I know that I think it's been 10 years now, or it's been 9 years. It'll be 10 years next year since the last college football video game. So I'll be pumped, even if it's the exact same game as 10 years ago, just to be able to get a new game, play against my friends. I'm a little bit older now. I don't have my roommates from New York City. I'm now, married with kids, so I'll have to do it online. But it'll still be fun to be able to play against my friends.
I didn't even know that. Congrats on the wedding. How long ago? Wait, so how long ago have you been married for?
So I got married 2012. So it's been 10 years. So yeah, lots changed in the last 10 years.
I always see you on Twitter. I just think you're like a single guy who has tons of followers and worked in sports media. I didn't even realize that you had a wife and kids. That's awesome.
No, I'm old, man. I'm old. I've been around.
He's old school out there. Have you taught the kids how to be a professional sports writer? You getting them into any sports or what?
No, I've got 2 daughters, and the oldest one is 6. So we're still away from talking about sports journalism. But I'm just trying. My youngest daughter, or my oldest daughter, just got into a soccer league. So I'm trying to get her started there, and we'll see where it goes.
Is she a striker, goalie? What's her favorite position?
She doesn't really have a solid position. I mean, soccer when you're 6 years old is just like 4 kids running around with no goalies. So it's a little unorganized at this point. We're just trying to get her excited about the sport.
You got the tiny net and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the tiny net, all that big net. Yeah. And you got, hey, now here's the thing. Are you one of those parents who are trying to get at the youth coach, or are you one of those parents that are like supportive of the youth coach and, hey, you know what, have my daughter work hard, I don't care?
No, I mean, I know that there's a lot of crazy like stage dads out there that are determined to get their kid to the major leagues or the pros by the time they're in kindergarten. But it's pretty relaxed watching my daughter play. I think just getting her excited about sports is my primary focus at this point.
Man, I thought you would be a stage dad for a second right there. I thought you'd be like, yeah. What's going on over here? Why are we running this play? Why is everyone so far away? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like some of these I mean, it's ridiculous with some of these. I took a class where it was like that, and it was. I've seen videos, and let me just tell you right now, it's like, my oh my. I mean, some of these people I just don't think have anything else better to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, but anyways, back to the NCAA football. Your favorite NCAA football game? Which one?
Oh man, I don't remember. I mean, I guess the one that sticks out to me in my head now is just the last one with Denard Robinson on the cover. There were so many great
14.
things about where the game left off. With recruiting and having dynasty mode and the mascot mode where you could play with the mascots as all 11 players on your team. So hopefully they've added, things. There's been a lot of updates to the game. There's a new overtime format. We've got NIL now. There's a lot going on that they have to update for in the last 10 years.
And I mean, hey, we got the revamp for that. I mean, that helps. The revamp helps, but you need what do you need? Just a bunch of modded PC, Steam versions. I mean, you got mod your PS3 or something like that. I think you could possibly get on your PS4 somehow or PlayStation 5 now, but you got to do tons of modding. And I'm not a modding guy. People I know are kind of good at modding, some of them, but I don't know how to do any of that. I'm brain dead whenever
I'm way too old to know how to do that stuff.
Hello, everyone. We're just going to take a short break here, real quick. I hope you all are enjoying the talk that I'm having with Jim Weber. Once again, the former NBC writer for NBC Sports, former CBS sports writer, and former ESPN, the magazine. He's worked with a lot of famous people over his years as a writer. He's done a lot of great things as a writer, made his own website. I hope you all are enjoying the talk with that as well. Once again, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Riverside.fm, and they have been really good with the podcasting video-wise for those who may live far away and can't really make it. That's really good, really helpful for all them, for everyone in the podcasting world. And also want to give a shout out to Anchor.fm too, once again, for the audio. Shout out to them for a great sponsorship here as well. And also fake sponsorship, once again, Liquid IV, fake it till we make it. Thank you everyone for the support. Let's get back onto the show. I'm old school, you're old school. I mean, let's just go back to playing some Bo Jackson football. Why not? I got the NES here. Come on over and play.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, nah, my cousin has an NES. I actually don't, but technically, I mean, if you have your Switch, you can have NES games, but that's what I have. So, but I think one of my games was honestly my first one was NCAA Football 2005. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't remember that one in particular.
So you had Larry Fitz on the cover, and this was also one of the first things where they expanded all the FCS schools a 1AA. Because at first I think you only had a limited amount of 1AA teams. This one they gave you all the teams in all the conferences. This was before North Dakota State also turned in the D1 AA levels along with South Dakota State. But you had my local school, Youngstown State, on there, and they weren't the right. It's weird because the roster was ways off to an official roster. It was years prior compared to the games where it was that same year's roster. You know what I mean? So it always threw me off. There's this quarterback that we have named Tom Setz who played at the time for YSU. And I'm playing. I'm like, where's Tom Setz at? Why is he not my quarterback? What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah, but you had that. You had Create a Team. You also had, I don't know if you remember, the Pontiac Classics, where you played old games and you tried to either rewrite history or you tried to the same history that already happened.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that happening.
Yeah, and they had those two, and it was a really good experience. I'm glad the game's coming back. I'm just a little afraid that it's going to be, again, another Madden thing, because Madden nowadays is so buggy, focuses too much on Ultimate Team. The only reason why I bought the new one, honestly, was because we play online franchise, me and my friends, and we're probably going to go back to playing that, I imagine, by August or September, maybe a little bit after that too, but I'm going to have to buy PS5 for the next one probably if we do that. But I just think, I don't know, do you think they're going to mess it up?
I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure to execute. My hope is that they've heard the criticism of the Madden fans and they'll make sure that NCAA football doesn't have the same problems. But fingers crossed, because that would be a huge bummer to wait 10 years just for the video game not to be,
Very it was before. Yeah, and Madden, I don't know if you play Madden at all. Are you a big Madden player?
I haven't played in a while.
Yeah, the new one's kind of like the same as the last three, basically. I mean, the same buggy glitches. A few things they got right, but it's like they tried to bring all the coaching staff back, but they used like all fancy coaches for it. You can fire your head coach again, but like you can't sign an official um assistant. And it still bugs me for some reason why they removed all those features that were once good in Madden. It still bugs me. Like especially on a better console, powerful than the PS2 where you could fit everything in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So speaking of which, I guess stay on top of the NIL deal. Archie Manning committed to Texas. Thoughts on that real quick? Do you think that has something to do with NIL deal, or do you think it was just Texas needing a quarterback?
I mean, I think the Manning family doesn't need a ton of more money. I'm sure there will be a big NIL deal for Arch Manning because he's the number one recruit in the country and of his name. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they've got Quinn Ewers now, who is at Ohio State. I'm guessing he'll start this fall and next fall. And then if they redshirt Arch next fall, then Arch will get 2 years before he supposedly goes to the NFL. So that's 4 years of the top quarterback recruit in the country playing for you. So hopefully Texas can get things turned around with Steve Sarkisian under that time. But we'll see. They've got plenty of great skill players. They've got Xavier Worthy. They got Bijan Robinson. But they're going to have to figure out the defense. You can't win many games when you're giving up 50 points to Kansas like they did last year at home when they lost. So we'll see. I hope that they get things turned around and they're an exciting program to watch because as a Michigan alum, I cheer for these other teams that have gone through tough times like Texas, Tennessee, USC. I think college football is just better when the big programs are relevant and at the top of their game. So I'll definitely be cheering for them.
I mean, yeah, I hope they all do pretty well too. Except for again, I hope Michigan doesn't do well because of like what happened last November. Go Buckeyes, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
that
not.
was
Yeah.
I know you were on your feet cheering right there. I was at a bar meanwhile with some friends, and these guys were all getting drunk from Ohio State's loss. You could tell they were already down in the dumps over here, and I was like, this. I was like, what's going on over here? I was like the only sober one. I'm like, what is this over here? I mean, this isn't supposed to happen. What's going on?
No, it was a great day to be in Michigan Stadium, and it was very cathartic after losing 14 of the last 15 times to win in such a great performance. So I'm hoping that there's more of the same this fall, but it looks like between retooling the defense, getting a whole new defensive coordinator from Oklahoma State, the amount of 5-star recruits that are coming into Ohio State, it seems like the Buckeyes have used it as a real wake-up call to take the program to the next level. So I know that beating Ohio State this fall, especially because of the fact that it's in Columbus, will be even tougher than doing it last year. So yeah, it'll be a heck of a game come Thanksgiving weekend.
So, who do you think is going to be the worst college football team this year?
Oh my gosh, that's a pretty loaded question.
23 teams. If you're not counting, of course, like the small conferences, like say the worst out of maybe the Power Five, who would you pick?
Well, my traditional answer would have been Kansas, but Kansas looks like it's got things headed in the right direction after beating Texas at the end of last year. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of who ended last year on a really bad note. I mean, I'd say Vanderbilt had a really tough time last year, and it seems like it's kind of lost its way, especially being in the SEC. They are in the SEC East, which is a little bit easier than the SEC West.
Not by
I'd say that if I was a Vanderbilt fan, I'd be a little worried about the state of the program.
Yeah, Vanderbilt. I don't know honestly who I'd pick. Again, Kansas, of course, we'll probably only have like 2 wins maybe. I think it's weird. Duke had a couple good seasons, and they just fell off a cliff again in football. It became a basketball school again, so you got to look out for that. In the Big Ten, I don't know who I'd pick in the Big Ten. Maybe Illinois, possibly, but as a worst team. But I feel like Illinois might get maybe a little bit of a step depending on what happens. Yeah, it's going to be a.
Phelan was a pretty good coach, so we'll see if they turn things around. I know Indiana had a pretty miserable season last year. 2 years ago, they were great, so hopefully they can bounce back.
Yeah, what was COVID season, didn't they have? They were pretty good that COVID season, weren't they?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, they had a great season, and they went into Columbus and only lost by a touchdown. Aside
Yeah.
from that, I think they only had one loss going into the bowl game. I think they might have lost their bowl game too. But I think they finished like in the top 10. So it was a heck of a year in the COVID season, and last year was a huge letdown. So hopefully this fall is more like 2020 than 2021.
We'll just have to see really what happens with that one. But speaking of all that stuff, UAB too. I don't know if you saw that. I mean, imagine you brought a program from the dead, basically risen them from the dead, and then of course you got to step down. Now health issues. They do say that. I don't know if it really is health issues. If it is, prayers. Hopefully everything gets better. Where does UAB go from here now? Because it seems like you're on the rise. Now you got to kind of rebuild a little bit again, and you're already going to be into camp by August, and it's going to be I don't know who they're getting as their head coach now. I don't know if has it come out with anything.
I haven't seen
new coaches.
I would assume at this point they're just going to promote someone internally and then try and fill the job permanently at the end of the year. But it's a bummer because Bill Clark did a great job at UAB. Then the program got shut down. They were off for 2 years. Then they came back, and he's done a great job there a second time. So for UAB to lose him, I mean, it's not traditionally a place that's had a great football program. So I hope that they find a good replacement, but it's going to be really hard to find someone that was as good of a coach as he was. I've kind of been pulling for UAB because the program got shut down. It was sad to see all the players have to find new programs. And then for them to come back and have so much success, it was great to see. So hopefully they'll be able to find someone, but it's going to be really hard to replace someone that did such a great job twice and didn't leave for greener pastures, because the problem you have with these smaller schools is either you find someone that fails and you fire them, or they have one good season and they're off for a bigger and better program. So the fact that Bill Clark was there, stayed with them through getting shut down, and then had success a second time. They finished last season 9-4 and won their bowl game. That's going to be really hard to find another guy like him.
Isn't that their first bowl win too, or is that like their second?
So he won a bowl game.
2004, right? Was he with them in 04 when they? Oh no, they didn't win a bowl. They won a bowl against Hawaii.
Bill Clark won another bowl game at UAB, so it wasn't their first bowl win. But yeah, it's definitely very impressive to win any bowl game when you're at a place like UAB.
I think I remember. So 04 they lost. 17, was that when they made it back after they were off? They made it to a bowl game, and I thought they lost that one. Or was the year?
They won in his first year back, or UAB's first year back. So I think it was 2018.
18, okay, got it. So 17, 18, and then they won another one last year. And again, UAB's I mean, think about UAB right now. I mean, they had the USFL guys on their field the whole time on their campus. Who knows? Maybe they learned a little bit from that. They've been a better program now than one we saw in the past. I think, again, coaches change that, but it's also your athletic department. I feel like that was also a big thing. And, of course, director of player personnel is what you have here too as well. Do you think that helps a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that, whatever Bill Clark was doing there, he definitely built an infrastructure and a winning program, and it's just hard to replace that. Because you assume that whoever the new coach is going to be is going to bring in a whole new staff. So you're basically starting from scratch unless they have success this year and you continue with whoever replaces Bill Clark. But my guess is they'll bring in a new coach from somewhere else, and he'll bring in his own staff, which makes things really hard. Unfortunately, that turnover happens a lot in college football. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you definitely want to keep the continuity going whenever you have a winning program going. So we'll see what happens.
I was going to know, is this a year for college football that we extended the playoffs? Is that going to basically come in fruition now? Or
it's not going to happen yet. I mean, it's something that I think is definitely coming soon. But right now it's still going to be a 14 playoff. And they said that that's for, the next couple of years. I think eventually that's going to change because there's so much momentum for it to change, and there's so much money involved in more teams participating. But they're going to stay with the 14 playoff for now, and hopefully the the semifinal games are better, because I feel like every year we go into the semifinal games all excited, and they just kind of let us down. Last year, obviously, Alabama pounded Cincinnati and Georgia pounded Michigan, so hopefully get better semifinals than we did last year.
Cincinnati had a lot of game management. Michigan just didn't know what they were doing against Georgia. I felt like because
Yeah.
I feel like at that game, yeah, Cincinnati they tried to just make them tired, but they didn't. You just saw. I think it was halftime. It was kind of close, right? Like 14-6, maybe 26 or something like that. So it was still
The
up.
score wasn't that
Yeah,
bad. It just never really felt that competitive, or like Cincinnati was ever really threatening. And then, yeah,
yeah.
Michigan, they just fell behind early and really never were able to get back into it. So it was definitely a tough way to end the season. But obviously, hopefully, when Michigan fans look back on the 21 season, all we'll remember is the good times and block out the Orange Bowl experience.
And then 2022, they'll worry about the bad times when Ohio State beats them again.
We'll see. We'll to be continued.
But that's what I wanted to get at though, because it seems like every year when I watch, it's Alabama, Georgia. It's an SEC team. You had Alabama, Clemson for a couple of years when Watson, and then you had Lawrence there. Then you had LSU comes in for a little bit, makes a little surprising run. Of course, you had Ohio State in 2020, but I really don't count that because again, COVID year, everything was just a mishmash of poo basically, because everything was just it literally was like a pile of dirt that you just had to like fix around and all that. But it seems like I don't know about you, games. I feel like back then college football games were, I mean, they're still fun. Don't get me wrong, but back then I felt they were a lot more. How do I say it? Just they were a lot more enjoyable. I don't know if it should be enjoyable, but more, I guess you could say, physical, and definitely a lot more like more close games. What's your take on it?
I mean, I just think that last postseason, the playoff games weren't that good. The Alabama Georgia national title game was good, but I think the semifinal games kind of left a sour taste in our mouth. But I would say in general, I think college football is in a really good place in terms of the game on the field. The NIL stuff is definitely kind of a circus off the field, but I'd say the games are in a good place. I mean, the offenses are definitely way ahead of the defenses at this point, and you can see, between Ohio State and Alabama, everyone is kind of running the air raid offense at this point. And there's just so much passing going on that the game has changed a lot, even in the last 10 years. But I'd say the games I'd say are really enjoyable. Hopefully just we get a better semifinal games once college football playoff rolls around.
Yeah, once it rolls around and the season rolls around. I don't know if you saw Melvin Gordon's quote. I think I saw like on YouTube or something like that. I don't know how much you're on YouTube or anything like that, but he kind of said a thing where it was reported. He basically said, and I quote, "The running back game is going to be dead in like 3-4 years, like in the NFL and maybe even in college." And I don't know if you see that a lot of times. I mean, I know with some teams they still ground pound. I mean, look at in college they still ground pound, depending on who the running back is. The Cleveland Browns, a team that grounds and pounds a lot over here. Do you think in my opinion, the running back game is kind of slowly dying? But I don't know what your opinion is on that.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I'd say that, you can see that NFL running backs just aren't paid nearly as much. They're not drafted nearly as high. So many teams are throwing the football now 50 times a game. Ohio State's a good example that they have a great running back in Travion Henderson, but I mean, how many catches did Jackson Smith and Jigba have in the Rose Bowl? He had like 15 catches himself in the game.
Yeah.
And you see Alabama, that used to be a run-first program, and now they're throwing all the time as well. So even these traditional schools are passing the ball.
Yeah.
You can see USC; they just hired Lincoln Riley, so they're instituting the. I know they instituted the air raid there, not very successfully, but now it'll be in full effect with Caleb Williams at quarterback. So, yeah, it's crazy to see that college football in the NFL, I know critics say it's kind of become 7-on-7 football with just a quarterback and a bunch of wide receivers running around. It's a lot of fun to watch it that way. Some people prefer the old school football, but that's just kind of the era we're in right now.
Do you prefer the old school football more? I kind of do.
Honestly. I mean, I enjoyed Michigan running the ball against Ohio State really successfully last Thanksgiving weekend. That was a lot of fun. In general, I think that five wide receivers is a lot of fun. It's really quick. The no huddle offenses are fun. There's really never time to get up and go to the bathroom. The game is just constantly moving, which I think is fun. But yeah, do I miss the '90s nostalgia of watching Ohio State, Michigan in the snow? Ramming the ball down each other's throats, Timby Aquatuka, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that definitely has a soft spot in my heart. But I think people love the excitement of passing, and that's why places like the NFL have kind of made it hard to play defense against the pass because they know how much people enjoy scoring and passing because it's fun to watch and it's fast paced.
Definitely is fast paced, and you see a lot more passes being thrown. The running backs, I mean, they'll still get like 100 yards, but you see their carries diminish from back. What would it be back then? Like 30. So like in 2000 probably. For example, again, 2000 Ravens, Jamal Lewis, for example.
Yeah.
How many carries did he get a game? Because they didn't have really a quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Trent Dilfer is not a star quarterback. He was decent that year when he came in, but like isn't a star. You know what I mean? And you see then with a star quarterback, someone like that, like Lamar Jackson, for example, he can just toss, throw, and he can also run. So that's what you kind of have. And then that's the same thing with college too. C.J. Stroud, for example, throws and he runs. That's what he does. You don't get the run backs a lot of stuff anymore because the game's going, again, as you said, 7-on-7. I feel like it's going also, you get a lot more scrambling quarterbacks than what he did back then in the day. I mean, Michael Vick was the one who basically set that up.
Yeah, I'd say that now you see almost every quarterback can run. Whereas back in 2000, the style was Peyton Manning, which was, couldn't really move at all. So you had to be able to protect him or else they were going to get killed. But now you got guys that can run around the pocket forever and make plays with their feet.
Yeah, so Manning, all he was able to do was throw. I think the only quarterback I can honestly remember, I mean, besides, I guess McNabb, he was a scrambler his first couple of years in the league. Michael Vick, definitely in college and definitely in the professional level. Actually, I think on your Twitter for your countdown, didn't you have a Michael Vick video, actually?
Yeah, I had a video of him. He had like a 75-yard touchdown versus West Virginia back in the late 90s, which was a spectacular touchdown run.
Man, that was fun watching that Virginia Tech team, especially with him. But you had him, you had there were other ones. I mean, that were just a lot of somewhat scramblers, but it was once again you were mostly either running the ball or you're passing. I mean, for example, Ohio State in the '90s and definitely the '80s, not a good team by any means. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit, good analyst, not the best quarterback. You know what I mean?
I mean, he was a decent Ohio State quarterback, but he was definitely not like a future NFL star.
And that's what kind of what I was getting at too. He wasn't like that, and you saw him also back then run the ball a lot more when the '70s and '80s were around. I mean, they had Archie Griffin, for example, two-time Heisman winner. That's just how you saw it. And nowadays, again, running backs are just. Do you think they're not even? I mean, they're of course going to have running backs, but just like the fullback position, do you think they're just going to stop giving it to the running backs here? I want to say maybe the next 10 years.
I mean, I think running backs will always have a place in the game. But, like you said, it used to be you get 30 carries a game, and now, you maybe split the carries up between two running backs, and each one gets, under 10 carries a game. I think we'll just see more of that going forward.
Hey, maybe Ohio State can do that in the Big House this year against Michigan, for all we know. When November comes around during that Thanksgiving weekend, go run the ball straight up the defense. Why not?
Yeah, well,
hey, you don't have your star defensive guy anymore. All your star guys are in the draft over here now. They're on the NFL.
Well, it'll definitely. I'm on the days to the game.
We're counting down already. How many days are we till college football, anyways, right now?
61.
61. So, what was your tweet today? What tweet did you have? Because I know you always put out video like count down the days. I think you had an Oregon one with the interception. I think it was like when they had the yellow helmets.
Yeah,
the UO.
It was Tim Dwight from Iowa having a punt return for the touchdown in the mid '90s.
In the mid '90s, what today or was that?
Yeah, that was today.
That was today.
Yeah.
Do we get a preview of what tomorrow's might be?
Honestly, I'm not sure what it is yet. I kind of look for it at the last second.
Look for it at the last second. So maybe you have to get. Do you ever get like do Division One FCS at all, or is it always just the FBS players that you
I've
always
always
do?
done FBS. I mean, I haven't ruled out the idea of doing FCS, but the FBS highlights are the ones that like come to my mind more.
I think I'll probably have to send you a good one. It's something about Appalachian State. They're blocking a game. They're blocking a possible
Oh,
game
harsh, harsh. Yeah,
I might send you that one right there, probably for what, day 60 tomorrow.
yeah. I mean, obviously, very iconic moment in college football history. I don't know if I can stomach putting that on the Twitter feed, but we'll see.
You think your Michigan alum friends are gonna get mad saying,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I wouldn't appreciate that.
you are a Michigan fan alum. What are you doing over here? Come on, you're ruining our school reputation over here." And you're saying, "Sorry, this host from the podcast told me to do that." So,
Right.
um, so real quick, I guess final thing, most iconic, because you brought it up already. There's so many iconic moments in all sports, college football especially. I think I have to go with, honestly, for like one of mine is probably Vince Young's last 45-second runs into the end zone against USC Rose Bowl. I don't know if that's yours. I know that's one of my iconic. What's yours?
I mean, that's definitely high up there. I would say that's the greatest college football game I've ever seen. In terms of the most iconic play I can think of, I would have to go with the Stanford Cow band on the field play from the early '80s. Um, that just kind of encapsulates everything I love about college football: the craziness, the zaniness, the band being on the field. That probably stands out to me as kind of head and shoulders above the rest, just because the band element just adds everything to it. Because there's been crazy finishes, the Doug Flutie Hail Mary, the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary, stuff like that. But the fact that a band member actually got trucked by a football player in the middle of the end in the game, that's just college football perfectly encapsulated.
Man, I'm surprised Tony Saragusa never did that when he was at Pitt. That's something that I feel like that guy would do. Man, guy on the field, you just really go and you just truck the person.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised.
I mean, what happens now if a band member like that gets on the field if there's like the last second run in for a touchdown? What happens? Because they were in the way for getting the tackle too.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you're on the field when the game's happening, I feel like it's you're kind of on your own. So I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen anything that crazy since then. There's definitely been a lot of crazy college football moments, but that probably stands out as the craziest of all time.
Pretty much all we see now with fans on the field are them streaking, probably naked, taking off all their clothes. But we haven't seen any. I don't think a band member's done that.
There's been a lot of fans rushing the field, but not with the game actually going on. So
yeah, we haven't seen that quite yet. Maybe this year, maybe 2022 is just going to be the year because once again, last year everyone was back in the stadiums, and then you still had some restrictions in stadiums depending on where you were. This year, they're all done with it. I predict that we might see at least a good number of streakers on some fields this year. Remember, these college kids, they get trucked before the games. I've seen it. I've been to tailgates like that. I know friends who get that. I see them always shotgunning beer, just going like this, right in their hand over here, throwing it to the ground. I mean, I just feel like a lot of these games, it's going to be almost like you're at Bills Mania or something like that.
yeah, I mean, part of the greatness of college football games is the atmosphere you get with the student sections. You can get 30,000, 40,000 students packed into a stadium. That's what makes it so rowdy and so much fun.
Yeah, and last episode, actually, I talked to it was my former kicking coach, Brian Palmer, who kicked for YSU, and he played at 3D1 teams, I remember. So he played at Heinz Field when Pitt played. So imagine that atmosphere right there.
Right.
And there was also the Horseshoe, Ohio State twice, and then also at Happy Valley, Penn State, Beaver Stadium. And imagine, again, it's not big, but imagine that atmosphere when you're going the least kick, and you're just seeing all white around, you're seeing all scarlet around. I mean, all gold around, blue and gold. I mean, that atmosphere has got to be wild when you're playing on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but pretty much, once again, Everyone, this is Jim Weber over here. Gotta thank him for coming on to the show. Once again, over here, you can follow me on, you can follow the podcast OB Talkwire. Once again, either go to my Twitter handle at Ian OB O'Brien. It's going to be on Anchor Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, the new YouTube channel that's just up. Once again, we uploaded a clip. It was, because it's probably going to be uploaded around Wednesday. This clip, I know, I just uploaded today over here. Once again, another mini clip over here. And we gave you a preview for what was going on in this episode. Once again, I know I messed it up on my Instagram story and Twitter. It's technically episode 5 of OB Talkwire, OB Grit Talkwire sometimes, because Young sounds full of grit. But everyone, once again, thank you to Jim Weber for coming on over here. And Jim, any final thoughts?
No, thanks for having me on. I just can't wait for the season to get started.
I can't wait for the season to get started, indeed. And tomorrow, I mean, hey, I might have to send you the clip, the Appalachian State one. That might have to be day 60 right there.
All right, feel free to.
Well, you could pay me back with a bad Ohio State loss or something like that. Maybe when they got crushed by Florida. You could send in 06. You could just send me that if you get really triggered. That's going to be your revenge if you send that.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, all right. Well, once again, thank you to Jim Weber for coming on here to the podcast. It was great talking to him. Jim, go have a good time with your wife. Go play some soccer with the kids over here. Make sure that you don't break any ankles while playing soccer.
All right.
And once again, get ready for the.
All right. Thank you.
Anytime. Have a good one, man. Once again, I got to thank Jim Weber for coming on, the former writer for CBS Sports, NBC Sports, and ESPN, the magazine, sharing his thoughts with all around the sports world, the college football world. Up next, as my special guest over here on OB Talkwire, it's going to be former Ursuline quarterback Glenn Griswold. He was also a good baseball player, and he's also active on Twitter, as you can tell by his reply game. We're going to talk to him all about that. We're going to go into a little bit of the Cleveland Browns situation, since he is a big Browns fan, his thoughts on the Deshaun Watson situation. We're going to talk a little bit, maybe political, not too much, though. We don't want to go spewing all politics. We'll probably just do like a little section about just everything that's been happening around the world, Elon Musk, and the new Roe versus Wade ruling that was last week. But anyways, thank you guys once again all for the support, and I will see you guys here next time, once again, for episode 6, featuring Glenn Griswold on OB Talkwire.